Welcome to the second part of creating a Studio Ghibli-style video game in JavaScript. Today we're going to create the environment where our characters will move. We'll make the ground, the mountains, and the trees. Alright, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is open Blender. If you don't have Blender installed, you can download it from this website. It's very easy to install. Once we're in Blender, we're going to create the ground for the scene. To do that, we need to add a plane. For that, go to Add Mesh Plane. Then, select the plane and press the S key to scale it, and on the number pad, type 125. Now, to add a texture to the ground, we can use any image of a forest from an aerial view. I created this image with artificial intelligence, specifically using Google's image effects. You can use any AI you want. This is the prompt I used to create the image. I'll also leave access to a file with the prompt in the video description. You can also use the same image I used, which I'll also include in the description. Once you have the image downloaded to your computer, go back to Blender. Select the plane we created earlier and open the Shading tab. There, click on New Material. Then, add an image texture node. To do that, press Shift+A and type Image. Choose the image texture node. Next, click Open and look for the image to use as the texture. Now, connect the color output of the image node to the base color input of the BSDF node. Then, go back to the Layout tab, press the Z key, and choose the Material Preview option. You should now see the texture applied to the ground. Let's change the name of the plane to 4. Now let's add the mountains. To do that, we're going to download the following model from the URL you see on the screen. Click on Download and choose the 1KGLB option. Then, in Blender, go to File, Import, GLTF, and look for the file you downloaded. Once the model is imported, you need to position the mountain right at the edge of our ground. Next, we change the name of the object to Mountain. Now, duplicate the mountain and move it next to the first one. And repeat this process until you've covered the entire perimeter of the scene. You can change the scale of some mountains to create a bit of variety in the scene. Alright, we have the mountains now. Let's add the trees. You can download the trees from the following URL. However, from this model I only used the tree trunks, and I modeled the leaves from scratch. So, for the purposes of this tutorial, you can download the finished trees from the following URL. You need to import the tree file. To do this, go to File, Import, GLTF, and look for the file you downloaded. Now, you can position the tree wherever you want. Then, you can duplicate the tree as many times as you want and place them in different spots on the scene. I'm going to explain how I made the leaves of the tree. First, you add an icosphere. To do that, choose Add Mesh Icosphere. Now, scale the icosphere a bit along one of the axes. Then, go to the Sculpting tab and select the Grab tool. You can set the tool to have a radius of about 112 pixels and a strength of 0.4. Then, using the mouse, start deforming the icosphere. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to mimic the look of a bush or a cluster of tree leaves. Once you're satisfied, go back to the Layout tab. Then, you can move those leaves close to one of the branches of the tree. You can duplicate the leaves and place them in another position, adjust the scale to add variety, and repeat the process until you're happy with your tree. Now that we have the mountains and the trees, let's create the obstacles to simulate the solid surfaces in the game that our characters won't be able to pass through. For the tree trunks, we can add a cube at the base of the trunk. To do that, choose Add Mesh Cube, and we'll give it the following name. It's important to give it that name because later in the code, we'll be checking the object's name. We duplicate the obstacle and position it at the base of the next tree. We repeat this for each of the trees. Now, let's add the obstacles for the mountains. We add a cube and scale it to roughly match the size of our mountains. We carefully position it within one of the prominent rows of mountains and then give it the following distinctive name. Break time equals 0.5s/. We duplicate the obstacle and repeat the process for each row of mountains. It's important to apply the scale to each obstacle. To do this, select each obstacle, press Ctrl+A, and choose the scale option. Now we're ready to export the scene. Go to File, Export, GLTF, and in the Options panel look for the Data Compression option and check the checkbox. This will make our model export compress so it doesn't take up too much space. Give it the name shown on the screen. We're going to save this file in the folder where our project is, inside the Assets folder, and then inside the Models folder. Now we can close Blender and open Visual Studio Code. The first thing to do is check that the file we exported from Blender it's located in the Models folder inside the Assets folder of our project. Also, I've created a folder called 02 and copied the files from the previous tutorial, so you can study the changes in each lesson. Now let's open our game.js file to add the libraries we're going to use. The first library is called GLTF Loader, and it will help us load the model we just exported from Blender. Next is the Draco Loader library, which is responsible for decompressing the model, since we exported it with the compression option. Then we add the Outline Effect library, which will give our scene a nice sketch effect, highlighting the edges as if they were hand-drawn. Finally, we add the Stats library, which will provide an overview of our game's performance. This library measures the number of frames per second at which our game is running. Ideally, we want the FPS to be close to 60 or higher. If our FPS drops below 20, We should consider optimizing our assets to improve the user experience. Now let's adjust the camera position. If you haven't deleted the lines of code we used to create the green cube in the previous tutorial, you can delete them now. They're no longer needed. Here we add a loading manager. Now we add and configure the Draco loader. Now, we will proceed to configure the GLTF loader, and then we will add the outline effect to our scene. Break time equals 0.5s/. Now we tell the GLTF loader where to find the model we exported from Blender. And inside the callback function, we add the loaded model to the scene. We position the model at 0 on the y-axis. Then we go through the model looking for the object named Flow, and we say thank you. The floor will not cast shadows on any object. It will receive shadows, and the material's roughness will be set to maximum. Then we look for all objects whose name contains the word invisible, and we hide them. If there's an error loading the model, we print it to the console. Next, we're going to call a function we haven't created yet to set up the screen that will allow us to measure our game's performance. Then we create the showStats function with everything needed for our performance meter to work. And finally, we add the outline effect to the update function. Then we click the Go Live button on our live server. And if everything went well, we should see the scene loaded. Look how beautiful it turned out. Now we already have the scene loaded. In the next video, we'll add our main character. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to subscribe and click the notification bell. That's all for today. Goodbye.